Hey guys, it's Telle from The Word Alive, and you're watching Heavy New York.
Heavy, 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 heavy New York!
What's up, everybody? It's Alex from Heavy New York. We are back at Webster Hall, and we return with Telle of The Word Alive. Thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, of course. Happy to be here.
Yep. The last time we spoke, you were playing Deceiver in its entirety, but now you have this new record announced called Monomania, which is scheduled to come out on the 21st of this month. Is this considered to just be like a direct follow-up to the Violent Noise record, or do you think that this is kind of like a new start for The Word Alive in a way?
I think, we kind of had our fresh start with Dark Matter, and, we were, I'd say, between Dark Matter, Violent Noise, like we were really experimenting with trying to hone in on the signature Word Alive sound that is just who we are now, how we feel, the music we want to make, and I feel like that, shift has culminated in this record, and, so I feel like everything that we've been trying to attempt to figure out and experiment with kind of came together for this album.
Was there like a preconceived idea on how you wanted Monomania to sound like, or was there kind of like a lot of improvising and things kind of like fell into place?
Actually, there was no like we need it to be this, we need it to be less like this or more like this. How we started writing was just we started writing way sooner, and we were like, let's just not push anything. Whatever happens, comes out naturally. Let's figure out. Let's go through it. Some stuff felt right, some stuff didn't. There are some great songs that we ended up, not keeping or not developing further because we were like, this is good, but it doesn't feel like us, and so. We just kept writing until we felt like we had the core of what the Word Alive is now, and our goal was to write until we felt all the same. Like we were like, this is us. This is the Word Alive. And then from there, we just wrote every song that could still be on the same album as that core group of songs. And we feel like we nailed it. And every song I think is different, has its own identity, but as a whole, it feels very cohesive, that was our overall goal. Is we want it to be diverse, but we want it to feel like the Word Alive through and through.
Well, this could just be being a fan of the band, but like, if you played me like 30 seconds to a minute of a song, I could tell that that's off of Deceiver, that's off of, Violent Noise, that's off of this new record. So like, it's fair to say like, are these changes or maybe like these different sounds representative of who you and the rest of the band were at like a specific time period?
I think it's a combination of that, and then just what the way the world is. It's kind of like trends to a certain extent. There are things, I guess even more so, I'd view it as like waves. There, when we first started, I think I mentioned this actually in our VIP today, where it was like we were really just young, didn't know what we wanted to do, but we knew that we wanted to tour with like A Day to Remember, Under Oath. We wanted to tour with August Burns Red, As Lay Dying, all those bands that were really like either had influenced us from day one or were popping off in the scene in that moment, like A Day to Remember was. And for us, we were just like trying to take pieces of our peers and then something we liked and mash it all together, and that's what became our first few albums, which is kind of cool because we never anticipated it growing to the extent that it did and meaning so much. But once it did, and we we're getting a little bit older, we started to really feel that pull to make our own name instead of like, if you like this, you'll like this. And we wanted to just really be like our own thing. The way that people view Under Oath or Thrice or Taking Back Sunday or, any band, Deftones, it could be any band, but when it's like their sound, and if you really love that sound, they're the best band in that particular pocket of genre that you could listen to. And I think that's the goal overall, is we want the Word Alive to stand, on its own, and not because it reminds someone of someone else, but because we are who we are, and just fully in every sense of the word, like it is just genuine and authentic to us. And so that's what we've been developing since Dark Matter. And, it took a while. We wanted to get all on the same page, and we experimented along the way, but it all comes to this record now. And I'm sure that as we, continue to move forward, like what it looks like for the Word Alive is kind of, we're not looking backwards, we're only looking forwards. And that's kind of the mantra we've taken. I know when we were writing in 2018, 2019, one phrase really stuck out to us. Like, if it doesn't feel 2020, then it's not right for us. And it had to feel fresh. It had to feel ahead of the curve. It had to feel something unique and fun for us that made us excited. Because if we're just playing something to appease, someone who's out there in the world, that's not really playing music for the right reasons. And that's not doing it for us. We're not going to be, the Word Alive that everyone knows and loves, as these people who bleed, our music on stage. And so we just wanted to really hone in our sound, and I think we did that.
Yeah, Rob Zombie said it best, actually. Like, because is there a difference between being inspired by somebody and just ripping them off? Like Rob Zombie says, "Let me guess what your favorite band is. The band you sound exactly alike." So
yeah. So I mean, for us, we wanted to shift away from just being lumped in with dozens and dozens of other bands, and we want to set ourselves apart. So to do that, we needed to just understand who we are and form an identity around the band that is singular to each of us, and what all of our influences are pulled together, rather than like, okay, this is like Zach's song that's influenced by this is Tony's song that's influenced by this. Like it wasn't so much like that. It was just, let's start with an idea and an emotion, and let's just build that into something special.
One thing I was curious about is, last time we spoke, I asked like if you needed to hear music to come up with lyrics, or if maybe a concept. But when it comes to getting like inspired to write, or for that creative energy to come through, like, do you need to put yourself in a certain place in order to get into songwriting mode, or do ideas and inspiration just sometimes come out of nowhere?
Sometimes it comes out of nowhere. For me, I think I'm different from, some people, maybe even within my band, where if I'm in a studio, it's like you breathing different air. To me, like looking around, seeing all the gear, knowing that special songs have been made there before, that you're going to make something special when you're like really in tune, with the universe, with the energy that you feel, with all the thoughts and ideas that have just been like waiting to break out of you. So for me, there's no place that is more creative and creatively inspiring to me than being in the studio.
A lot of artists I know, they say being in the studio is sometimes the worst because it's such a controlled environment.
Yeah, they feel like pressure, or like, we're here, we got to write. But I love that, because I'm not trying to write the greatest thing that you've ever heard every single time. I'm just trying to write what's inside of me. And sometimes that happens to be something really special, and sometimes it's not. So I don't put that pressure on myself that's like, this next lyric I come with has to be the sickest thing I've ever written. Because I think you need to get out all of your ideas and all of the emotion and stories and experiences that have been building up since maybe the last time you were writing and recording. And then, the right stuff is going to flow out and rise to the top.
Yeah. One thing I was curious about is, I think you're a very, very prolific artist, not even just with The Word Alive, but as some people know, you were in Fear and Faith for a period of time, but you've collaborated with artists such as Upon a Burning Body and Our Last Night, and those. It's kind of like two questions in one, but is it like a different mind frame to collaborate or work with another band as opposed to with The Word Alive, or is there like a usual method behind the madness? And like, do they kind of look for you to bring your own mix to it, or do you kind of have to maybe adjust your style to fit the band?
So for me, I think everyone who's asked me to do guest vocals has pretty much been like, do your thing. Like, they want me to bring me to the song, not me to do what they're already doing necessarily. So I've never done a guest vocal that they weren't just like, yeah, this is awesome, because I feel like it's fun. It's purely fun. So when I'm writing for another band, whether it is vocals or just helping them with their own songs, for me it's like there is literally zero pressure, because it's not for my band. It's not speaking only, or it's speaking only my like experiences. I'm not having to think about like how this will be received by our fans per se, or even our own band, like how it represents them. It's like, this is how this song makes me feel, and this is what I feel like it is not necessarily missing. This is what I can add to this song that is already great. And I try to bring my own thing to the table each time, and I I love doing it. I think collaboration is a really great thing.
I'd imagine it has to maybe allow you to bring in some new stuff to the Word Alive, but also like, is there maybe in a way kind of like a similar method behind the madness that applies to everything in a way?
Yeah, I mean, every time I go into the studio, I try to top what I did last time, and I try to learn. You know, we go out and we're on tour right now, obviously, and every time we're on tour, I try to learn something new about my voice. And when you do that throughout the course of a year, maybe the next time you get to a studio, you learned this one little thing that now you can implement into a new song. So I've definitely done that, where I've taken different levels of things that I've learned and put it into, you know, some guest vocal stuff. And I've tried things in that because I'm like, if people really like it, then I can do more of it. And if it, you know, if it doesn't connect as much, then, well, that was just for this project, and it's not, you know, something that sours like the Word Alive.
And the final question I wanted to ask you is, that last question was actually intended to be the last question, but I actually had the privilege of witnessing your VIP today, so I just instantly thought of another one. Because, you know, VIPs, people think, you know, picture signing, you know, maybe a Q&A or something like that. But I thought I was really interested in your VIP with, like, you know, how you are like recording like a podcast with your fans and you really have this great interaction. Does that at all maybe influence you or give you some new ideas as well? Because I told you last time, you have some of the most dedicated fans I've ever met, and that's something I think is really great about you guys. So, like, I'd imagine that this interaction has to inspire you in a way too.
I definitely think it has to. I mean, you can't hear someone's personal testimony or stories and it not like leave some sort of mark on you when you're writing music that is impacting people in such a great way. For our VIP on this tour, yeah, we are in the process of developing a podcast that includes our fans instead of just other people. It'll include, you know, other artists and different guests, but for now, to get it started, it's just fans. And yeah, I think it's really great to hear from them. Like, we ask them questions, they ask us questions. It's a great way for us to understand why they like the songs they like, what connects, you know, the Word Alive to them. And so I think it'll undoubtedly bring us closer and closer to really reaching our diehard fans on a much personal level.
Do you think maybe like you could maybe segment some of those podcasts and include them on a song one day? Do you think that's ever a possibility?
I mean, we could definitely do a thing where, you know, people throw out random song titles or a lyric and we document it, and maybe it makes its way into a song or something. I think that would be kind of cool.
Yeah, it's like a live album without it being a live album.
Yeah. We could with a podcast, we could do so much. You can be really creative. So we're looking forward to getting that going and seeing what happens with it.
Yeah, and people could find it on Spotify or.
Once it's out, they will be. Yeah, right now we're just building up the episodes. We're like learning how to do a podcast and how it flows. We're taking notes of the things that we like or don't like, and just getting it prepped to go out there. But once it's out there, I'm sure it'll be on Spotify, and I'm sure it'll be, you know, on everything. But our website, wearethewordalive.com, is kind of the hub that you can, once you go there, you can find everything else.
Again, that was so cool being able to witness that. That actually helped me prepare for this interview even more. So it was, yeah. So before we go, I'd like to thank you so much for your time today. Just Monomania is scheduled to come out on the 21st. Is there just anything else with The Word Alive that you would like to promote? This will be uploaded by midnight, so if it hasn't been announced yet, don't say it here.
Okay. Yeah, just keep an eye out on our socials. We're going to be announcing a couple more tours within the next, I would imagine, 2 to 4 weeks. And yeah, just listen to Monomania, stream it, buy it, whatever you prefer. If it touches you, if it means, you know, a lot to you, obviously support it any way you can, and let us know what your favorite songs are.
Awesome. Well, great to see you again, man.
Thank you so much, bud.
Everybody, The Word Alive, Monomania, coming out on the 21st. Buy it then when supplies last forever. We'll see you next time on Heavy New York.